All right. Um, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our pre-camp meeting for week 6 of the 2023 season. It's hard to believe that we are getting close to the end of our summer season here. But we're really looking forward to the group that's coming in next week, and we're going to share some information with you here tonight, and be happy to take any questions that you have. You can verbalize those questions, open up your mics and ask a question as you go, or also just go ahead and throw questions into the chat box. And we do a pretty good job of keeping an eye on the chat box between the three of us, and responding to questions either through the box or verbally, in response to that as we're talking through the presentation. So we're going to share some information with you, and then at the end, of course, we'll turn it over to questions as well. So this evening you have with you, my name is Brian Murray. I'm the camp director here at, excuse me, at RSR. We also have our program director, Josh Clark, and our commissioner, Quentin Ciccalella. And Quinn's going to be leading off. We're going to let him get going first because he's got some things to take care of here. We are in session here this evening, and he's going to go help deliver some evening medications. So we're going to let him take care of his part and go from there. So, Quinn, take it away.
Can you guys hear me now?
We got you. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Not. I used a different computer this time because the other one was being used. Okay. I just want to go over commissioner service, kind of what to expect. So as you know, I come in each day. I'm going to be checking the campsite, just check on safety, see how everyone's doing, and just making sure that we're, having a great time. And essentially, I do a top score with each unit for honor troop, and which they'll do the flags for afterwards in the evening program or afternoon. And I'll have that listed on a paper. What's really big for when I do our daily campsite visits and all that is I do a campsite improvement project that is each day that each unit can do. And on the very bottom, what you can actually list what it is so that I know what to look for. And that's really helpful for me is that a lot of times it's not filled out. No one tells me. I don't put in points for it when something did happen. So on the bottom, you'll get a sheet, just fill out what it is. I'll then sign it that I saw it, and then I'll put your 5 points for a campsite improvement. My biggest thing for campsite improvement is just something that's sustainable or it lasts more than just your day that you're there. So if you put in like air freshener, that's not necessarily a campsite improvement in terms of lasting because that might be removed the next day. But anything, even like leveling tables or anything that you think would really improve the site or the campsite is fantastic. For paperwork there that Brian gives you, there's a stack of different things like fire guard, emergency procedures, and even the campsite visit checks, inspection sheets. They're all in there, and if you can post it, it makes it really helpful for me because that's part of your inspection as well as just information for you. In terms of things going issues with a campsite, please let me know. I'm happy to assist. This is what I'm there for. If there's a leaky tent or a campsite issue, let me know, or any staff, but they'll come to me eventually for leaky tents. So I'm the repairman, and I can help you out. With latrines, just to make sure that we're keeping the smell down and helping out our latrines in general, please make sure you put one handful of wood shavings down each seat hole of the hole each day. Don't do too much, just one simple scout handful. For any material needs, this is one thing that I've been noticing is that a lot of times we have trash bags on top of a blue bucket, and people don't notice underneath those is a lot of the supplies. So look for like a 5-gallon bucket or something in that vicinity. And in that is a lot of your supplies, soap, and different other items. If you run out of there, please check in with the quartermaster and they can help you out. If the quartermaster is not open because it follows trading post times, come to the office and we can help you out. And in general, if there's any issues, let us know. And one of us, Brian, myself, Josh, or anybody in the office can help you out, or just in general. And I do apologize, a little distracted because I see myself 3 times on the screen. So I in different angles. So any questions for me? Okay. I will be back near the end for the Q&A most likely. And I know Brian or Josh can assist for a lot of the questions that may be directed towards my general field. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Quinn. It's a funhouse mirror setup for him there with the additional computer, but appreciate Josh helping getting him hooked up there. So with that, let's go back to the beginning of the week. Normally we'd have Quinn towards the end, but we're going to start off here now with the check-in procedures. And our check-in time for camp is 1 o'clock. That's really important to make sure that we stress that with folks, with the parents and the troop. That's what time we will begin the check-in process on Sunday. And the reason it's set at 1 o'clock is, quite frankly, the staff has about 25 hours off per week, and they come back in at 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and we have a couple hours where we have to do some projects to be ready for you, to make sure that everything is set, ready for your arrival. We have a staff meeting, and that's 1 o'clock is when we are ready to go to get folks up there. You can certainly have the troops begin gathering a little bit earlier than that. But around 12:30 or so would be the appropriate time to begin gathering if you want to get your troop together, take attendance in the parking lot, do all those kinds of things so that you're ready when the staff guides come up to there. But please, we ask that you don't gather much before that time. The reason being, you've got scouts that are out sitting out in the parking lot that may be hot, they may be hungry, they haven't eaten lunch because they got there too early, and they think we're the ones holding them up because we're not up there yet. So troops can start gathering at around 12:30. We'll be up there by 1 o'clock to start walking you through the process on Sunday. Now, staff guides will go up to greet the scouts and to greet the troops, and we'll ask the scoutmaster or whoever's in charge for the week to please come down to the office with a copy of the roster. And we're going to ask you to bring a printed copy of the roster, even if you're just printing it off the website and then just updating it as needed. This is where we check to make sure, are there any scouts that are arriving late? Are there any scouts that have canceled at the last minute? Any of these kinds of things, we need to reconcile that with the registration that we have in the Black Bug computers. You're going to do that with me. It's a pretty quick process, and then we'll send you off to join the rest of the troop in the campsite. At that time, while the unit leader is with me down in the office, the guides are going to take the scouts and the other adult leaders down to the campsite. And it's important that the folks that are headed down to the site bring the medical forms with them. Okay, don't send the medical forms with the person who's coming down to the office, because it's entirely possible that you could get to the campsite and a medical officer is already there waiting for you to begin administering the medical rechecks, and you can't get started because the forms are up in the office with the other person. So send the forms down with the guides to the site. One thing that I do want to add as far as this coming Sunday, I know some of you are on this call because you have scouts that are attending provisional. We have a large number of provisional scouts that will be joining us next week for our STEM week program. And so because of that large number, we do something a little bit different for week 6 than we do for any other week. Provisional scouts will not check in at the office. Provisional scouts are going to go right across the parking lot to the Cub Scout Pavilion, which is right there next to the parking lot, and they will have their own check-in where they will be assigned to their campsite. And so if you have a provisional scout, they can go right to the Cub Pavilion. If it's with a troop, the troop's coming in, that person comes down to the office for check-in. The troops may have a vehicle permit for one vehicle to transport a gear or a trailer down to the campsite. That vehicle permit is in the hands of the troop guide, the staff guide that's going to be working with you, and they will hand that to you. There is one pass per unit. If you need multiple vehicles, if you have multiple vehicles that are bringing stuff down, they need to relay it. So one vehicle goes down, unloads, brings the pass back up, next one goes down. And that is to make sure that we minimize the amount of traffic on the roads. We'll probably touch on this a couple times here tonight, but those of you that are living in the area, it's been a very, very wet summer in the Capital District, and our fields are very thoroughly soaked. We have a lot of mud, as does everybody else in the area. And so when we have multiple cars, some of our roads are a little tighter than others. And so in order to pass, you might have to go off the road and into a field. And that's when we get big ruts and we get vehicles stuck and other kind of nasty things like that. So try to minimize the traffic on the roads, allow camp vehicles to get through. So we do limit it to one vehicle at a time. And when When we do that, we ask that you please keep those vehicles out of the campsite for the same reasons. Park trailers can certainly be left down at the campsites, but we ask that the trailers be detached. The vehicle goes up to the parking lot. The trailer can remain at the site, and it needs to remain clear of the roads so that vehicles can get past. Certainly emergency vehicles can get through, but also not into the campsite. Every campsite has this sort of like a transition space. I hate to use the word driveway because it implies that you can drive into the site, but more of a transition space between the road and the campsite proper. That would be the space for the trailers to be kept during the week that you're at camp. Okay, going to talk a little bit about some of our health and safety items here at camp. All adults must have current youth protection training to remain overnight in camp. They must also be cleared through the New York State background check prior to their arrival. So folks have been doing a really good job with this. We've had to do fewer follow-ups. Every year that we've done this, folks have gotten more used to the process, and we've had to do fewer follow-ups during the season. But we've already run over 500, I think close to 600 names through the New York State background check through the units, the names that units have provided to us. So that does need to be done prior to arrival, though. So if you have not yet submitted a name for a background check, that is done through that Google form. I sent the link out several times this spring. The link is also right on the front page, right at the top of the rsrbsa.org homepage. That's our camp website. You just go in there and enter name and date of birth and answer one or two other questions. It takes seconds, but it puts you right into our database so that we can send that information off to the New York State department that handles this. It's important that this be done before next week. So really, if you haven't done it yet, please do so within the next 24 hours so that we can get you submitted, because anybody that comes in on Sunday afternoon that hasn't been cleared is not going to be allowed to stay, because we cannot communicate with that state office to get somebody cleared on a Sunday. Same thing with anybody that arrives after business hours on a weeknight. We would have to call the state office to clear them, and if that office is closed, we can't help you. And so we would ask you to go home and come back the next day once we've had a chance to run that background check. So please take advantage of that. It's a great opportunity also to background check all the parents in your unit. We encourage you to do so for any parents that you think might at the last minute decide that they want to come up and spend a night, because maybe they're a parent of a first-year camper who they're unsure about whether or not they're going to feel comfortable. So they might pop up. Get them background checked ahead of time so that is taken care of, and you don't have to worry about that in the moment. In addition, the requirement, this is a national BSA requirement, is that anyone that is remaining in camp for more than 72 hours, and that does not have to be consecutive. So if you come for a day, leave, come back for a day, leave, come back for a day, that works too. Anybody that's in camp for more than 72 hours does need to be registered with BSA, and that means that they should be registered to your troop. That can be a dual registration, could be primarily registered with a pack or with a different unit, but also registered with the troop that they are going to be staying with at camp. Quickly putting on another hat that I wear for the council for a second as the VP of Safe Scouting, I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that this rule changes on September 1st. This is a national rule. This is national BSA policy. It changes on September 1st. That 72-hour rule goes away. And as of September 1st, any adult that is participating in an overnight scouting activity must be registered with BSA, even if it is just for one night. That is a change that was announced a few months back and will take effect September 1st. So please, you should be preparing for that in terms of if you're going to the council camporee this fall, or any outings that you're planning with your units this fall, even a weekend camping trip up here to camp or to Battleship Cove or someplace like that. Any adults that are participating in that, even just parents of the kids, are going to need to be registered from that point on. So that is a pretty big change. We know it's a change that affects the units significantly and the parents and leaders, but that is a policy that's coming down from national. That's not a council policy. For identification purposes for folks that are in camp, we use wristbands for identification. The staff have wristbands that look like this one here, these red and black silicone wristbands. Adult leaders that are staying in camp for longer than 72 hours that have been background checked and all that, and are registered with BSA will receive a silicone band as well, but it's a different color. It's actually glow in the dark, so that'll be fun. So we use that. And any short-term visitors, think somebody that's coming in for the barbecue on Wednesday night, or a parent that's coming in to drop off gear to a child, they're going to get basically a quick visitor's band, which is one of those Tyvek sort of carnival fare wristbands to indicate that they have checked in at the office. We also use our camper release form to try to keep track of the scouts as they're coming and going during the week. If you have any scouts that need to leave before Saturday morning, baseball game during the week, doctor's appointment, what have you, uh, any scout that's signed out of camp must have a camper release form submitted to the office. So that form is available on our website. If you go to rsrbsa.org, you can look across the menu at the top. There's a more button and a resources tab. Click on the resources tab, and it has a whole list of documents and resources for coming to camp. One of those is the camper release form that needs to be signed by the parent of the child that's being picked up. Excuse me, and also by one of the unit leaders that's remaining in camp. And that way the unit leaders understand, they know that that child has left, and it kind of serves as a receipt that they know that that scout is gone and out of camp. It also helps us so that the unit leaders are an additional check to ensure that the person that that scout is leaving with is approved and not somebody that should not have contact with that particular child. We ask everybody, it's expected that all scouts and really adult leaders as well use the buddy system while they're traveling throughout camp. We have a sign in, sign out system where they sign in and out both from the board and their campsite, as well as sign in, sign out books in each of the program areas in camp. And for our emergency procedures, we'll go over this with the whole camp on Monday morning. We usually don't do it at Sunday dinner because that tends to be one of the longer meals with everybody getting adjusted to the dining hall procedures. So we'll go over this on Monday morning. So just so you're all aware, if anything happens on Sunday night, we have a siren that goes off 3 times a day at 7 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. And if it goes off at those times, it's only going to go off for about 5 seconds usually, or excuse me, 1 second usually. And that is simply a test of our system and to kind of signal the different changes in the program time during the day. If, however, that siren goes off for a minute or longer at any point during the day, that is our alert that we need everybody to assemble at what we call the Tuscadaga field, which is the field where the Gaga Ball pit is. It's right between Tuscarora and Onondaga campsites. Line up, please, by troop. Have everyone remain standing until everybody in the troop is assembled. That includes the adult leaders. And then once everybody in your troop is present, everybody has a seat or squats down if the field is wet, so that we can look around real quickly and see which units are fully assembled and which ones are still waiting on folks. We would use that in the event of a lost camper, lost bather, or excuse me, lost camper, lost bather, fire in camp, similar scenarios to that. We also have a second siren that we call the Yelp, and this is a siren that we use for severe weather that is headed our way. The Yelp sounds an awful lot like a police car or an ambulance type siren. And if you hear that siren, we need everybody to assemble at the either the dining hall or Seneca Lodge. And those are our 2 secure shelters for inclement weather. We know that the unit may be divided because we're going to ask people to go to wherever is closest to where they are at the time. So they may be in program at that time, so they're going to different spots that are not necessarily closest to your campsite. And we will take attendance in both locations and let you know who we've got so that we can work with you to establish that everybody is accounted for. For our active shooter policy that we have been talking about a little bit more the last couple of years, unfortunately, the reality is we don't have facilities in camp that would be considered hardened in that particular language. So the best scenario under this kind of a situation is that if the alert goes out, that we ask everybody to simply run into the woods, run as far away from the roads and the campsites as one can to find shelter and to find cover out in the woods. We don't have a siren for this. What we would use is our radios and the Remind alert system, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, to notify people of an emergency where they need to seek cover. And then they would be brought in by law enforcement coming in using their communication tools to broadcast out for people to come back in when it is safe. When you check in, we are going to give each leader, the head of the unit, a strip of flagging tape. And we're going to ask you to just tie that on the outrigger of your tent or the bunk if you're staying in a lean-to. And we use this so that if there's an emergency during the overnight hours, if we need to be able to get to your troop and let's say we have to find a scout who we've just gotten a phone call from home and the scout has to be picked up, there's an emergency. We don't want to be standing in the middle of the campsite yelling the kid's name at 3 o'clock in the morning. We want to know where to go to find the leader who knows where that scout is so that we can wake them and send them on their way. Or if we have a severe storm during the night, We're not going to use the siren because if you're asleep and there's rain pounding down on your tent, you're not going to hear the siren. We will send vehicles, staff members and vehicles out to every campsite. We will go directly to the unit leader and we will use you to help wake up the troop and get them to that secure shelter as needed. So that's the purpose for the flagging tape that we're going to give you on Sunday. The picture there is of our health officer, Tyler Henderson. Many of you know him as well from his work at the council office. I put the picture up here so that you know and are familiar with who is going to be providing our medical care this summer, although we do also have a few other EMTs on staff, including Josh and our ranger, Joel Uline. A couple things from the health and safety standpoint there. All medications that are sent to camp do need to be in their original containers. So any prescription medications need to have the name of the patient on the printed label on that. OTC medications need to have the individual's name written on it as well. This is really important because sometimes we have families that maybe two siblings are using the same medication. So the family just sends one bottle up and says they're both taking the same thing, just take it out of the same bottle, or a scout has the same medication as a parent. We can't accept that. It has to have the name of the patient on the bottle to be able to give that to the scout. So that's an important thing. It's got to be in the original container. Please don't use the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pill containers, and make sure that the patient's name is on the bottles that they come in. We do have 3 AEDs. Those are the automatic electrical defibrillators there that are available in the case of an emergency. 3 of them are in camp. 1 is in the camp office, just inside the front door of the office. 1 travels with Tyler at all times in his vehicle, a large blue pickup truck. And the 3rd one is down at the ice house, which is the guard station down at the waterfront. So if you ever need to locate an AED for any reason, please go to one of those 3 locations, to whichever is closest to you. We've talked a little bit about limiting vehicles in camp. It's really important that we respect this. We've had some issues this summer with people driving deep into campsites or across fields, and to be honest, it's not safe. For one, driving a vehicle into a campsite when kids are running around in between their tents and things of that sort. You might not see a scout that's crossing behind you. The other thing is when vehicles are going into these softer areas, with all the rain that we've had this summer, it leaves really nasty ruts behind, and that's not great for the groups that are coming in after that have to deal with that. So we ask that you please respect the signs. In some cases, there's big boulders that have been put in place to suggest where your vehicle should stop, but we'd ask you to please keep the vehicles out of camp. Also, please respect the speed limit. It is a 10 mile per hour speed limit once you pass the front gate, past the new sign, into camp. When you get to the end of Davitt Lake Road and it transitions to that dirt road at the ranger's house, it is 10 miles per hour from there on through the rest of the camp. But I'd also put in a word for the fact that Davitt Lake Road, which is the road that takes you up to camp, has a 40 mile per hour speed limit, and we'd ask you to respect that as well for 2 reasons. One, we like our neighbors and we like them to like us, and they definitely know where all the traffic is headed on a Sunday afternoon in July and August. The other thing is that it is very rare that I go up or down that road without seeing a deer on the side of the road, and if you're going too fast, that's a recipe for disaster. So please keep that in mind as you're traveling up. The other thing with vehicles is to please no riders in the backs of pickup trucks or on trailers, as that is a leading cause of injuries at scouting events. For communication, we have a remind alert system. Please, actually, I apologize, I forgot to change this slide, so disregard the 5 right there in that text system. The remind alert system is the Remind app we've been using for a few years now. You can text at 6 RSR 23, so at 6 RSR, not the 5 that's up there, at 6 RSR 23 to 81010. Or if you have the Remind app, you can just go in, add a class at 6 RSR 23, and that will give you access to the Remind broadcast alerts that we're going to be putting out during the week next week. So I'm just going to throw that into the chat just to confirm that. At 6 RSR 23, just so you have that again. Apologize for the typo on the slide there. We do have communication also through our newspaper that is edited every day and delivered to your breakfast table. That is the Fire Starter, that has schedules and funny stories and other things for your morning entertainment. That is also available on Facebook. If you follow Ed Keelan's Facebook page, Ed is our assistant ranger and camp historian, and his Facebook page is the home of the Thunderbird Club and our camp history. And he posts a Google Drive link to the fire starter newspapers if any parents are interested in seeing them from home. Communication also, emails. My email is campdirector@rsrbsa.org. We have a food at rsrbsa.org. We'll get you in touch with our cook, Sean, which I'll also talk about that in a second. And medical, if you have any issues related to medical questions or medical forms need to be emailed or anything like that, please send them to medical@rsrbsa.org. Josh's email address follows the same format as mine. It is programdirector@rsrbsa.org. So if you have any program related questions, you can reach out directly to him with that. Mentioned our dining hall services. We are serving a buffet style service. And Sean is back with us again this year. This is his third year with us. We're happy to have him back. And he does a great job taking care of the various food allergies, dietary restrictions, special meal accommodations that are necessary. Although it's not listed there, this includes, religious accommodations to the degree that we're able to accommodate those. But certainly avoiding certain foods, we can do that. If you have any of those, we have set up a Google form to report those so that it populates right to a spreadsheet that Sean can see in real time so he knows exactly what's coming to camp. So if you have anybody that has any particular food requirements, please go ahead and hit that QR code. The link is also available on our website at rsrbsa.org on the food page. But if you hit that QR code, it's going to bring up a Google form where you can enter the appropriate information so that Sean knows exactly what we need to do to help make sure that your stay at camp is a healthy and safe one. Wednesday lunch is still in the campsites. We'll be doing that again this year. Patrol cooking at other times during the week is optional. And you'll have, when you check in, you'll get a menu that has a la carte options that you can choose from if you'd like to cook out at other times during the week. The entire troop does not have to cook out. If you have just a small group that maybe they're working on cooking merit badge or they just want to do some cooking out, they can do that. If you split the troop, though, we do need to ask that you have adult supervision in both locations. So if you're sending some kids to the dining hall and some kids are staying back in the campsite to cook, we do need to have the unit have adult leadership in both locations. Garbage will be collected each evening from the campsites Monday to Friday. And so please leave your trash out before you head to dinner. That's the best time because after dinner, everybody runs off to evening program and nobody remembers to go back and put the trash out before the trash collection occurs, usually not long after dinner is over. So put the trash out. You could just put it out by the entrance to your campsite. There's a couple of exceptions to that. If you are in Oneida campsite, which is right behind the office, we ask you to go ahead and bring it out to the rock at the corner of the lawn at the front of the office, right on the road, so that when the garbage trailer comes up the road, we can see that and take care of that. The lunch on Wednesday does not need to be a cooked meal. It's a cold cuts meal, so there's no cooking necessary for the Wednesday lunch. If you choose to want to bring some things to supplement, you can, but we'll be providing a cold lunch for Wednesday. In part because some people don't want to cook, so we make it easy for you. The other two sites that have a special accommodation with the garbage, if you are in Algonquin or Shindaku campsites, the two sites adjacent to the dining hall, you're right next to the garbage corral next to the dining hall, and so we would ask you to take your trash and just go ahead and place it right in the trailer that sits inside that corral, and we'll take it up with the garbage from the dining hall at the end of the evening. If you happen to go in there at night and the trailer is empty, please don't put trash in there. It means that we've already taken the trash up and we don't want to leave trash in there that animals would get into and tear it all up and leave the garbage room a mess for the staff the next morning. So if you miss that, feel free to put your trash inside your troop trailer or take it up to the dumpsters yourself, up to the dumpsters on the side of the road as you come into camp. Wednesday nights, we are offering our family night barbecue and program once again. Serving for the meal will begin at 6 o'clock, and tickets are available at trcscouting.org. You can go right to the calendar page on the council website, and you'll be able to see next Wednesday, whatever the date is off the top of my head, I don't recall. You'll be able to see the barbecue is there, and you can go right in and order your tickets online. Tickets are $16 for ages 11 and up, $10 for age 10 and under. This is working out really well, switching to the online pre-sale that we started last year. But it is important to stress that everybody does still need to check in at the camp office on your way into camp. Even if you ordered your tickets online ahead of time, you're going to come to the office, you're going to sign in, you're going to get your visitor wristband, and that's where you actually get your tickets. So just because you ordered it online, but you have to get your tickets, like going to the will call booth at the stadium. You get your tickets and you can head down to get your food. If you get down to the bottom of the hill without stopping, you don't have tickets, you're going to have to walk back up the hill to get your food. So please make sure that everybody checks in at the office on the way into camp. We will still take walk-ins and people that pay at the office. That's fine too. We could do that, but the large amount of pre-sale certainly helps us with planning and speeds up the process of getting everybody through the office for check-in as well. One thing I wanted to note on that is, just we start serving at 6 o'clock, and we know that sometimes parents are coming from work or you're coming from greater distances. You can't quite get there by 6 o'clock. We would recommend that if you're going to be attending to eat the food for the barbecue, you really need to be here by 6:30. That's about the time that we usually, in a larger week, that's about what time we're finishing going through firsts and about to call seconds. In a smaller week, we will wait till about 6:30, even if we've already finished up first. We know people are coming in a little bit late. We'll wait till 6:30. We can't really hold people off much longer than that, though. If it's time for seconds, we will call seconds at that point, and let people through. So if you show up at 6:45, you're welcome to come in. You're welcome to enjoy the evening program. You may not get food at that point. So just to keep that in mind for any guests that might be coming in a little bit later at that time. And our campfire follows about 8:15 ish. It's 8 o'clock on the screen there, but it's usually closer to about 8:15 that we'll start the campfire program on Wednesday night, and that's put on by the campers. So that's always a good time and a great show for the parents that are visiting. Troop photos will be taken on Monday evening. We just did that this evening. They are $8 each. They get printed with a fancy border and text and all that stuff with the unit number. And when we take the photos on Monday night, I'm going to ask you two questions. We're going to ask you, how many photos would you like to order, printed photos? You don't have to order any. We do want every troop to sit for a photo so that you can appear in our slideshow, but we'll give you the option to order printed ones. Tell us how many you want. They're $8 a piece. And tell us if you would like your chartered organization name printed on the photo. So that's the school or the church or the VFW that sponsors your troop. If you'd like their name printed on there, we'll be happy to do that as well. You just need to let us know what that is when we do that. We're happy to take the money at the time the photos are taken on Monday night, but if you need to catch up with us later in the week, that's okay too, as long as we have the number so that the photos can be ordered early on in the week. With that, I'm going to be quiet for a bit here and turn the show over to Josh, and he's going to talk about our programming camp.
All right. Hey there, everyone. Thumbs up, Brian. I'm coming on through. We're good?
Yes. Yeah, you're good.
I had some minor issues just like Quinn. So hey there, everyone. So we're having a great time this week. Looking forward to next week with you guys. Some resources that your scouts and you can utilize. We have a merit badge pamphlet lending system. Each program area has piles of extra books. So if any of your campers are taking merit badges they want a reference to throughout the week, they can absolutely take one out. Those are often for our eco-required, or the ones that are a little bit more complicated, being environmental science. Some of those were like pioneering the knots. Our merit badge verification forms are things some merit badges aren't fully completed at camp. Again, camping is a good example with the 20 nights requirements. We need an adult leader to sign off, check off that, yes, this scout has indeed done their 20 nights. You can find that verification form on our website on the resource tab that Brian already talked about. And do when you get here. So any merit badges that need some communication with adult leaders, that is how we do it. On this, look on a computer, and I just drop.
Okay, I think we're having some technical issues with Josh's feed, so I'm gonna take over here for him for a bit, and hopefully he can get back in. Um, you was talking about the progress reports that are available on Wednesdays. We'll make those available to you all so that you can see that. You're also going to be able to see some of the merit badges within your Black Pug registrations as well. We could talk a little bit about that next week as to how you can see that. Um, other programs. Josh, are you back? You want to take over?
Yeah, well, certainly try. See what happens.
Yeah, you're still a little buggy. Can you make sure that you're on the Rotary office Wi-Fi and not on the Rotary signal? It's probably a little weaker for you.
Makes sense to me. I kicked everyone else off the Wi-Fi, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so our as we mentioned on Sunday and Wednesday, we'll have campfires. Our come visit us campfire, welcoming the whole camp and introducing ourselves as a staff. Wednesday, the scouts will put on their campfire for their parents and the troops and other troops. On Tuesday, we'll have our camp-wide game, pirate theme, because our staff just loves pirates. Every year, one of them always wears pirate costume no matter what. So we went with pirates this year. We're doing a full treasure hunt. And there is some rewards at the end of that. We have our open programs, the open shoots, the open swims, the open climbs, the open crafts. In particular, we have tomahawk throwing, we have bouldering, some scout skills and nature experiences. Our Trail to First Class, or our first year program, offers takeouts, or you can request that area to do requirements with your scouts. So if you have a scout who's in Trail First Class and it's just not going to cover a specific requirement you want done, or you have scouts that aren't in Trail First Class and you want them to cover a specific requirement, we can facilitate that. That's often for those requirements that are a little tricky, little knowledge or equipment focus that some adult leaders can't handle. Like one this week we got requested was doing navigation at night, and having to describe stars and moving around, and we'll do that with that unit. We facilitate the Outdoor Ethics Awareness Award, so both scouts and scouters can get that award in a single sitting one of our nights, and then they're ready to go out and do the Outdoor Ethics Action Award with their units and get 2 awards with one bang in a couple of weeks. We facilitate polar bear swim or early bird swim, or come down at 6:30 to the waterfront and jump into the water Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We very much want our adult leaders to participate. We very much want adult leaders around and doing things with their scouts and in our camp. We've got a couple of specific programs for adults, often trainings and whatnot. Our aquatic supervisor, which includes the swimming and water rescue training and the paddlecraft safety. So basically what an adult leader would need to facilitate running a water-based outing, as well as things like the leave no trace trainings, the trek safely, the climb on safely, and there's one more, but I'm forgetting it. And we're also more than happy for our adult leaders to join on in sessions. We're always happy to have a adult leader say, hey, my scouts are out in kayaking, a merit badge, kayaking merit badge doesn't look full. Can I join? Absolutely. We love that. We also had an adult leader sitting in on a nature merit badge early in the summer, and they took weather and knew nothing about meteorology. And apparently that was fantastic for everyone involved. So stuff like that, we want to encourage that. We love you being here. We love you interacting in any way you can. Go ahead and hit the next slide, Brian. And go ahead and add, yeah, there you go. So you may know it's STEM week. So that's when we add on several merit badges and Nova Awards to our program. We are bringing in several volunteers to facilitate, most of which are so space exploration, radio, engineering, electronics, up and away. The next big thing, our Cope and Climbing director, Kim Murray, decided she wanted to do chess once again. She's previously done chess for STEM merit badges for open program, so your scouts can go ahead and join that. And I believe we don't have a formal sign up for that, Brian. Is that correct? We don't have a formal Black Bug sign up. We'll just start Monday, 4 p.m. and see who shows. And we'll work from there.
All right. Thanks. You all set, Josh? All right. So now the addition of chess that Josh was talking about there, we're going to be able to do that during the open programming time in the afternoon, is unfortunately part of a byproduct of the fact that we did have to cancel COPE for next week, the Project COPE course. Or actually, sorry, Project COPE is old school. Now it's just COPE. But the COPE course, because of limited interest, we only had 2 scouts sign up. So I did email both units that were affected by that earlier today. So if your scout was affected, you should have received an email to let you know that we had to cancel that session, but can open up other things for them to do in the afternoon. COPE is very much a group dynamics activity. It's a fabulous activity. It's a wonderful one. They've got a great group going this week. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the interest in that for next week, and so we had to cancel that. But that meant that Kim, our director, was able to offer chess instead during the time that would have been doing COPE. So we've mentioned before this Black Pug system that we use now for managing our record keeping for merit badges. All merit badges are now recorded for us in this Black Pug system. And so I mentioned earlier that throughout the week, you may be able to go in and see where where your scouts are, how your scouts are doing on their various merit badges. When you move our little box here, you look at the top of your roster page in your Black Pug account, and you've got your registration contact, and up at the top, there's 3 tabs: participants, payments, and reports. And if you look at the reports tab in there, if you are the registration contact that has the account for the unit, you're going to see a host of different ways in which the information about your scouts' schedules and registration is presented to you. And some of our staff are able to update those merit badge records throughout the week so that you can see in real time that those records are being updated. Some of them cannot, and there's a little bit of, it varies. And for those that cannot update it on a daily basis, you will get the update on Wednesday that Josh talked about before, as well as the final reports on Friday. Really, frankly, the difference is it's kind of a manpower and a technology issue. For, let's say, the aquatic staff that has 3 people over 18 that are certified merit badge counselors that can sign off on things, and only 5 merit badges offered, they're able to kind of keep track and stay on those things usually a little bit better. An area let's say nature, where there's 1 director over 18 and like 13 different merit badges, it's a lot harder for them to keep track of that online on a daily basis. They're getting their staff is keeping tabs on things and keeping the records, but they'll update them by Wednesday and by Friday. But in some cases, you'll be able to see that during the week. At the end of the week, those reports will remain with you as long as you have access to Black Bug. As long as the council is a Black Bug client, those records will remain in there for you to be able to view at any time. You can also print traditional blue cards. You could throw paper into your printer, print off a paper that looks just like the printed traditional blue cards with all the same lines and such on it. If that's something that you like, if any of your units are still using Troopmaster, you can also export to that. One thing that we will do is sometime after the conclusion of the week, it does take a little time for us to make sure all the paperwork is, buttoned up nicely. And sometimes there's some slow technology on National's end for doing this, so it sometimes takes a little longer than I'd like, but we will export all of the merit badge records from week 6 into Scoutbook. So for all your units that are using Scoutbook, which is probably most of you, we will be able to send your records into there. Now, there's some things to go along with that. In order to make that happen, the BSA member ID of each scout has to match their name. and their name has to be as it appears within the Scout book system. So if there's a misspelling, if there's a typo, if a number is wrong in the BSA ID, the databases will not communicate with one another, and the information will not be able to load up into Scout book. The other issue that we run into a little bit with this is that Scout book will only allow the importation of merit badges. So any awards, like let's say snorkeling, mile swim, BSA lifeguard, those cannot be exported into Scout book. You would have to manually record those from the records that are in your Blackpug account. Same thing with rank advancements. So rank advancement requirements that are completed in Trail to First Class, we can't export those up into Scout book, but you can take that information and enter it into Scout book based on the records that we provide within Blackpug. So everything will be recorded in Blackpug, but not everything can be exported into Scout book. But we will do the best we can to get as much of it in there to save you some effort on the back end. Something that we're just talking about a little bit at these meetings here that's come up a couple times this summer is just a reflection on the fact that adult supervision is a really important part of the scouting program. In fact, it's one of the reasons why all of you are required to be background checked by New York State, because New York State considers you all to be an extension of the staff because of the model that we have as a scouting camp where troops are supervised by adult leaders and parents that stay with the troops, as opposed to staff members supervising cabins or what have you. We would ask that if you've got groups of scouts that are heading out, particularly in the evening, to places like the shower house, the basketball courts, the Gaga ball pit, that you provide some adult supervision to go along with them. Those are areas that we simply don't have the resources, the manpower to be able to have staff staying outside the shower house all day long or even all through the evening to be able to make sure that scouts are acting in a scout-like behavior. And we sometimes find that when large groups of scouts, particularly from the same unit, are traveling together to some of these places at night, that's when we sometimes get some shenanigans. And so if you could help us out with that, provide some coverage for that, that would be greatly appreciated, providing some of that supervision. We've also gotten some feedback from some of the adult leaders this year that, and we fully understand that everybody's experience is different at camp. But some adult leaders have come to us and said, you know, I'm just sitting around the campsite all day. I'm here. I'm at camp. I'd love to help. You know, put me to work. Let me do something. And if that's you, feel free to reach out to one of us or let us know or check in with us when you get to camp next week. And there are opportunities. You can go sit up in the lifeguard tower at the waterfront and help watch the water so that frees up a guard to do some other work at the property or at the waterfront. Or there may be opportunities to help out in a program area where more supervision, more hands-on support, like in a handicrafts area, can be really useful to helping to support the learning experience for a scout. We are not asking for this. This is not us saying, you know, we need your help at this point. We have a great staff and they're doing a great job. This is more of a response to some of the feedback that we've gotten from some unit leaders that are interested in this kind of thing. If you're saying, I've got a really good book that I'm bringing to camp next week, and I'd like to sit in my hammock and read that book, that's great too. You have a great time and enjoy that. We would encourage you to help out with the groups that are going to the shower house or the basketball courts at night, but we don't need you to step into the program areas. But if that's something you're interested in, let us know, and we'll certainly do what we can to help find something fun to do while you're at camp. Adults are able to take part in, Josh talked about some of the adult trainings, some of the open programs that are available. If we were able to offer COPE next week, it would be open to adult leaders. We have a couple of them doing it this week, but there are some things for adults to do to have fun at camp too. And with that, that's the formal program that we have and all the information that we had to share. So we have to open it up for questions. And I see a raised hand already there. Kurt, what do you got?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go for it.
Fantastic. A couple quick questions.
Sure.
I know you talked about trash, and that's to be put out at night before before dinner.
If you put it out before, we usually pick it up 20, 30 minutes after dinner, whenever the dining hall is ready to be cleared out. So if you put it out before dinner, we definitely get it. The problem is if you don't put it out before dinner, sometimes people forget to go back to the campsite. They're all running off to evening program and everybody forgets to put it out.
Yep. Okay. And the second question I had, year after year, I've been printing from Black Plug the blue cards on the sheets per scout.
Mhm.
Do you guys not need them anymore?
We don't do anything with the black.
Okay.
This is only the second year we've been doing the black bug advancement, but
Okay.
we don't need anything from you. Yeah, those of you who've been doing this long enough, you remember sitting there filling out the actual
Yeah.
cardboard blue cards and stuff like that. Nope, don't need that. Everything's in the online system, and we will upload the information to Scout Book when we're done.
Okay, perfect. And I did reply to your email earlier today. I don't know if
Yep,
you've gotten
yep.
to it. So
I think I saw it just as I was logging on to this, so I will take a chance. I will look at that and get back to you.
all right, thank you, Brian.
Yep, no problem. Greg?
Hey, as you know, Brian, I'm out of council. Is it
Sure.
normal? Is it normal for foot lockers to be the method that everybody brings their stuff in at Rotary now?
Dealer's choice. It's up to you. Some are in Foot Lockers, some bringing backpacks. It's whatever you want.
Well, as a provisional scout, are they going to literally be carrying their foot locker down to a campsite?
We will have some staff that will be able to transport some gear for the provisional scouts to the site that are out there, because we know that they're not coming with a troop. We know that typically the troops are, somebody in the troop is bringing the big old pickup truck and is hauling everything down to the campsite, and the provisional scouts don't have that option. So we will have some staff that are able to help with that transport.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Jason? Jason Seeley?
Oh, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Yep. I had myself muted. Sorry.
That's okay. No problem.
So it'll be our first year at Rotary this year. So I'm just wondering, schedule wise, I've been looking that over. I see that you have just a couple things scheduled for Saturday morning. Is it typical for most troops to hang around till Saturday morning, or do most troops leave Friday night?
Typically the troops stay till Saturday morning. We do sometimes have scouts that leave on Friday night because they have other commitments that they're heading off to, or what have you. Families make those decisions, but typically the troops do stay till Saturday morning. What we do on Saturday morning is we have flags before breakfast. We do a quick breakfast, and then we move right to our closing ceremonies after that. And there are certificates handed out and unit leader recognitions and things of that sort that are done at that closing ceremony. And then once that ceremony is over, typically the good rule of thumb is we are starting closing ceremonies around 8:30 to 8:45. We're usually done with closing ceremonies by around 9:30. So if parents want to come for the closing ceremony, they should be there by about 8:30. If they don't care for that and they're just coming to pick up the scouts, they can be there by about 9:30. When that is over, there will be a staff guide that will go out to the site to check out the troop, just like they were checked in on Sunday. So we do a closing inspection of the site, make sure there's no damage or anything like that. And that once that is completed, the troop is free to go at whatever pace they like. So we know that there's some troops that they're packed up and everybody's ready to go before they even leave for breakfast. So the scoutmaster and the SBL go back, check out the site with the guide, and they're done and off they go. There's others that like to take a more leisurely approach to check out or have more to pack up. That's fine. Either method works with them.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I may have missed it. What time is the award ceremony or closing ceremony? What time does that finish?
Usually right around 9:30-ish.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I have a question in the chat asking about provisional scout campsites. So typically we do receive a large number of provisional scouts for STEM week, and that's the case this year as well. And with that, we handle that in a couple of different ways. So if your provisional scout is coming in and they already have a relationship with a troop that's in camp and they want to camp with them, by all means, we'll make that happen. So if I'm just going to pick a random number. Troop 752 is in camp next week, and there's a scout that wants to go camp with them because they worked with them before. We'll connect them with that troop, and they'll stay with them. But beyond that, we do form provisional troops for week 6 because we have so many of them. Last count, we were over 30, 35 provisional scouts, maybe more. And we have one troop that is going to be taking the girls because we have several girl provisional scouts. We have other troops that will be formed with the boys that are coming to camp. Depending upon the final number, we'll determine how many campsites we use for that. Typically, it's 2. we're kind of right around that break point right now where it's going to be either one large site or two smaller sites to put that together. But we do have volunteer and staff leaders that have volunteered their time to come up for next week. These are scoutmasters, experienced leaders, people that we know from the staff for the most part that are going to be managing those troops. So it's a little of everything depending upon what the preference is of the scout. The other thing is we will always put scouts from the same home unit together in a provisional troop. So whether they're going with another troop or they're going to stay within a provisional troop, if they come together from the same home unit, they will camp together at camp as well. And if there's other relationships, you know, there's a scout that knows another scout from, it's a different troop, but they know him from whatever, NYLT or the OA or something like that, and they make a request to camp together, we will honor that request as well. Other questions?
Hey, Brian, it's Jim Dalpy. My son Jameson's coming out as a provisional scout, and thank you very much for that opportunity. Would I be able to come out as a parent and spend a night or two with him? My forms are all complete.
As long as, yeah, and if you could send me an email just so I can make sure that I make a note of that, and when assigning tent spaces and things like that, to know that there might be somebody else coming in during the week. But as long as you meet the same requirements that we discussed earlier for the unit leaders, so YPT is current, and you've gone through the background check either earlier this summer or you submit it in the next 24 hours so that we can get you cleared through there, and that you're registered with BSA.
Understood, and thank you very much. I'll drop you a note.
Okay. Question in the chat about can 3 scouts from the same troop be in the same tent? The answer to that is no, they cannot. We cannot put 3 scouts in a tent. That would be a violation of the health department requirements for the amount of space that each camper is required to have. We do, however, have lean-tos in at least one of the sites that we would be using for provisionals, and the lean-tos are 4-person lean-tos. So once they get to the site, if there's a group of 3 that wanted to camp together, that's something that they could work out with the provisional leadership to say, you know, we'd like to use one of the lean-tos so that we can be together, but we cannot put 3 people in a single tent for that. Kurt?
Yeah, just one question on the t-shirts. Is that when we check in or is that when we leave?
Which t-shirts are we talking? Are we talking about the early bird t-shirts?
Yes.
The early bird t-shirts, if your unit signed up for camp prior to November 1st of last year and you qualified for the early bird t-shirts and we reached out in the spring and you sent us your shirt sizes and everything, those will be waiting for you at the trading post. They'll be there Sunday afternoon if you want to pick them up, or at any point during the week.
Okay, so we get them from the trading post then.
Correct. Right. And just to remember, folks, that, you know, if you were part of that program, the scouts all get a free t-shirt, and you gave us their sizes earlier in the year, and those are the sizes that we'll be giving you. If there's adult leaders that ordered those would need to be paid for. Those are $12 a piece, and you would pick that up and pay for those when you grab the shirts. But yes, those are all down at the trading post.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, well, we don't want to keep anybody any longer than is necessary. I'm going to stop the recording, and Josh and I will hang on for a couple more minutes. If anybody has any other questions that they wanted to ask, maybe without the recording going on or anything like that, we'll be happy to take those.